Some killers act on impulse, others leave behind a trail of mistakes, a witness, a fingerprint, a motive. But one man spent years making sure he left behind none of those. He didn't kill because someone wronged him. He didn't stalk one specific person. He didn't even need to know your name. He believed that with enough patience, enough planning, and enough discipline, he could kill anyone and never be caught. For years, he came dangerously close to proving himself right. He buried weapons across the United States. He flew thousands of miles just to avoid creating patterns. He chose strangers. He paid in cash. He turned off his phone. And every time investigators looked for a connection, there wasn't one. To the outside world, he looked ordinary. He worked construction. He had a family. He laughed with coworkers. No one suspected that beneath that ordinary life was a man who had spent years preparing for murder. This is the story of Israel Keyes. Serial killers often leave something behind. A habit, a signature, a familiar hunting ground. Israel Keyes wanted none of that. He spent much of his childhood moving between isolated rural communities. He learned to hunt, to survive outdoors, to stay unnoticed. As an adult, he served in the US Army before settling into civilian life. To neighbors, he was simply another hardworking contractor. And that was exactly how he wanted it, because while everyone else saw an ordinary man, he was already thinking years ahead. Not about his next job, not about his next vacation, but about his next victim. Long before investigators knew his name, Israel Keyes had already begun hiding what the FBI later called kill kits. Buried in remote locations, inside were weapons, cash, ammunition, zip ties, and other supplies. The kits allowed him to travel with almost nothing. He could fly across the country looking like any other passenger. Most serial killers develop patterns. They choose similar victims, similar places, similar routines. Israel Keyes deliberately fought against every one of those tendencies. He sometimes traveled hundreds or even thousands of miles before committing a crime. He often selected victims who appeared to have no connection to him. To detectives, every case looked isolated. No common suspect, no common location, no obvious motive. It was like trying to solve dozens of puzzles without realizing they belonged to the same box. Years passed, and no one knew his name. Then everything changed. In 2012, 18-year-old Samantha Koenig disappeared from Anchorage, Alaska. Unlike many of his previous crimes, Keyes took extraordinary risks after the abduction. He used victims' ATM's card to withdraw money while traveling. Those transactions created a trail investigators could follow: surveillance footage, financial records, vehicle information. Piece by piece, the carefully constructed illusion began to collapse. For the first time in years, someone was catching up on him. Once in custody, investigators expected denial. Instead, they met a man who seemed strangely calm. He admitted to multiple killings.
The analogy that I've heard for it is it's more like an archaeological dig. The other day I was just going through and kind of tossing things until you find what you think you're looking for.
Yeah, that's a lot of trouble to do. I almost feel guilty. Costing the taxpayers a lot of money to find those.
But just kept my mouth shut.
But that's how committed the FBI
No, I
is.
understand it. They,
This is what
well,
we
it
did.
sounds like they've got it. They've got the area. They just got to find it.
They're very confident that. One of the best.
Even from inside a jail cell, every answer created new questions. How many victims were there? Which disappearances were connected? Which secrets would never be uncovered?